Mamar is from Shabbos Parshas Acharei, Mavarchem Kodesh, just like this Shabbos, a couple of years ago, like 40-something years ago. The Rabbi delivered this Mamar on that Shabbos in 1976, and it focuses on Yom Kippurim and especially the special clothing that the Kohen Gadol wore on this holiest of days and how it reflects the very essence of the oneness and holiness of this day. Ksenes bad Kodesh yilbosh. The pasuk, the verse in the parsha says that a tunic of linen, a sacred tunic of linen, michnes evad, linen breeches, yiyu al basari, will be upon his body. Uva'avneit bad, and with a linen sash, yachgar, he will gird himself. Uvemitznefes bad, and with a linen turban, yitznef, he'll wrap his head. Big day kodesh heim. These are sacred clothes, goymer, etc. Okay, so that's a pasuk in Parshas Acharei that introduces the Kohen Gadol and his Aveda on Yom Kippur. In the Mamar of our Rabbi, this takes us back to At-Torah of the Tzemach Tzedek, and ultimately look at the Torah of the Alter Rebbe and a number of Mamarim from the Rabbeim, including the Mamarim of the Mittler Rebbe and the Mamar of the Rebbe Marash. So the Rabbeim take a look at this verse and they say, it's brought down from the Gemara, as well as from the Medrash Halacha known as Teres Kenim that accompanies the third book of the Torah. Why does every one of the items of clothes come along with a description of its material? Kseines, a tunic, that's made of bad and is holy. Michten sevad, breeches, they're made of bad, they're made of linen. Va'avneit, and then when it comes to a sash, once again we emphasize bad. We talk about what you do with it. And then mitznefes, we talk about the turban, and once again we say that it's bad. And then we say, pluralistically speaking, in all-encompassing expression, big day kodesh, they are holy or sacred vestments. So why does it say bad by every one of the articles of clothing? In fact, in this pasuk it says bad, 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 bad. 4 times bad. You could have just said, big day bad kodeshim. They are holy clothes made of linen, kodeshim. What was gained by the Torah emphasizing the raw material from which each of these items of clothes was made 4 individual times? V'hava l'leimer, kulam, big day vad. There's a kseines, a tunic, there's michnesayim, there's breeches, there's a sash, there's a turban, and they are big devad. So there in the Gemara, which is found in Maseches Yoma on page 35, the Gemara from here derives that the material that's used to fashion these clothes can't just be any linen. It has to be the finest of linen. And that's what the Torah emphasizes. Kseines bad. You select the finest bad, the finest linen. And then you'll make a kseines, you'll make a tunic. And when it comes to michnase, when it comes to the breeches, it's going to be bad, meaning the finest of linen, not just any linen, not just made of any kind of flax. And that's why it has to say bad each time. V'lo stam bad, not just any kind of linen or flax. V'hine, big day kahuna, heim b'diuk dafka. The clothing of the Kohanim is very extremely precise and exact. Acharei, we know after all, asur livches mehem, it's prohibited to subtract from the number of garments that the Kohen Gadol wears, or lo hosef aleim. One is not allowed to add or subtract. It's very, very precise. Like the Rambam talks about in Hilchas Klei HaMikdash, in the 10th chapter, when he goes through the different forms of clothing, he emphasizes exactly such and no different. If the Kohen Gadol is going to wear his clothes, it's exactly 4 items, not 5 items. Exactly 4 items, not 3 items. The Mizem Muvan, from this is understood, Shekal Echad B'Big Day Kahuna, that every one of these sacred priestly vestments, Yeshloi in Yonai, it has some kind of meaning. Not just any kind of meaning. It has a major meaning. It has a major contribution to make. Each one of these clothes adds something without which the Kohen wouldn't be a Kohen, and a Kohen Gadol couldn't be a Kohen Gadol. Yom Kippur wouldn't happen. It's not just having all the clothes. Each one of these articles or clothes adds something of massive and major importance. And it's only when you have all of these individual items together, Bitzir of kulam yachad, when they're all conjoined, and there's a synergy of all these items with everything they represent, that's when you have the big day kahuna, and that's when the Kohen or Kohen Gadol can serve as they're supposed to. This is what it says in the Gemara. So if you wanted to say it was muvcha bad, so just say muvcha bad. No, let's talk about each one individually. Ksoines bad, and it's kodesh, and michdas bad, and they're going to be kodesh, and so on and so forth. However, it's only when you have all these individual items made in the most precise and exact way, each one representing what it represents, and they come together as one. That's when you have the concept of big day kahuna. All right, it's very general, overall commentary now on the terminology that the Torah specifically uses with regard to the Kohen special clothing for Yom Kippur. So what does this all mean? Where are we going with this? What's the point? Explained to them. And here, I presume that Rabbi must have mentioned the names individually because the maniach, whoever compiled this mamar from memory, makes a point of writing Rabbi mentions each one of the Rabbeim individually because each one of them, in their different mamarim, added a different dimension. The Isa Baramak, we find in the writings of Rabbi Moshe Cordovero, who wrote a number of very important works, including a special sefer on Avedis Yom Kippurim. So this is the Arizal's predecessor. The Ramak says that 4 vestments represents the idea, the energy of 4 different letters that comprise God's ineffable name. The thing is like this. The mitznefes koi al keser. The turban refers to the concept that is known in Kabbalah as crown. V'zeu masha mitznefes hoisa al harosh. So the crown is placed on the head. And what's the purpose of the crown being placed on the head? Vehi lechaper al inyan hagaiva. This comes to atone for the notion of people's success getting to their heads, or people's ability, or people's talents, or people's accomplishments, or people's effects. Whatever it is, sometimes people say it gets to your head. When it gets to your head, it's not a good thing. It means a person became a Baal Gaiva, a person became conceited, a person became overly obsessive on whatever they were able to achieve. The Inyan HaGaiva, the concept of Gaiva, of conceit, of arrogance, of self-aggrandizement, Negeya upoigim l'mayla mayla bereish bebechinas hakeser. It is something that negatively impacts the highest levels of a person's existence and psyche, all the way to what's called bechinas hakeser. So bechinas hakeser, the idea of the crown, represents not one's thoughts or even one's ingenuity, not just one's intellectual creativity or ability to process ideas and can make decisions, but ultimately into the ultimate mover and shaker. What makes a person react? What is the faculty that overridingly and necessarily causes all of human activity? The answer is Keser. Why do people do things? The answer is because they want to. If you want to, you do it. If you don't want to, you won't do it. If you want to, you will succeed. If you don't want to be being forced into it, you will not succeed. This is just the simple reality. Most important, you have to create a ratzon. You have to have desire. You have to really want something. If you really want something, just about anything can happen. If you don't want it, it's not going to happen. This is the concept of lower level of Keser. And what motivates the want? Why do people want things? Because there's something called tainuk. Because we all want to be in a state of perfect equilibrium. We want to be in a state of pleasure. No normal person looks for pain. Wakes up in the morning and says, how can I suffer today? How can I be in pain? Unless they're a masochist, which means they get the pleasure out of pain, which is a mental illness. It's not well. This person's not normal. But again, it goes back to pleasure. That's what makes this person happy. So this is the concept of Keser. And Gaiva is such a negative and damaging concept that it affects not only the person's ability to think clearly, it affects the person's how a person wants and what a person wants, and ultimately It poisons the very essence of the human condition, the concept of tainuk. Now the aim is there's not a contradiction with the Alter Rebbe writes elsewhere, that the mitznefes, that the turban, which was 16 amot, a very long piece of cloth. And we say, Ubeis Pamim Yudke Yudvav, and 2 times 16 is Lamed Beis is 32, which corresponds to Keneged Lamed Beis and Sivis Chachma, 32 pathways of wisdom. In other words, so if the concept of the mitznefes, which is 16 amot long, it's very long, and then it's doubled over, so to speak, it's wrapped around and around. So you double 16, you get 32, and there are 32 pathways of wisdom, 32 neuronic abilities for a person to be able to develop ideas. So in other words, the Ina mitznefes, which is Chatzi B'chinas Lamed Beis Chachma, that's halfway the 32 pathways, neuronic pathways of wisdom, who b'meichen, then it must be in the head, not b'keser, not on the crown. Alter Rebbe says not a contradiction. The Rebbe says, why is it not a contradiction? The concept of 32 neuronic pathways means how keser, how a person's want and desire, how a person's tainuk, what makes a person tick, what makes a person happy, how that's nimshach, how that's drawn forth into the ability to think. So it's not a contradiction. And zeh masha mitznefes balachaper al gaiva. And that's why mitznefes comes to atone for the concept of gaiva. What is gaiva? Gaiva, begematria, gaiva has the numeric equivalent of yudke, of 15, not 16. Now 15, this bechinas chub. That represents the concept of chachma and bina. Because yud represents chachma and he represents bina. And together that's 15. Ki ha-mitznefes, because the turban represents masha keser nimshach b'meichen. The way keser, it resonates or illuminates within the mind. So, a person wants something. When you want to maybe talk to somebody about what they want or what they don't want, you have to appeal to their minds. That's the key. The key to getting through to a person is through his mind. So, through his mind, you talk to a person, you educate a person, you explain things to a person, and you continue to develop the ideas until a person grasps it intellectually. And that's how you're able to achieve a transformation, ultimately, of keser, of ratzon and tainuk. So, in other words, the concept then of the mitznefes, it's something that deals with the deepest issues in a person's subconsciousness. In other words, sin is not only something that I do or don't do. Sin is not only on the most superficial realm of a person's existence. Sin is able to poison the deeper part of one's psyche as well, to the point that a person has the wrong attitude about everything. He's hung up on himself, full of himself, looks down at everybody else, or at least puts everybody else down in order to make himself big. And he's a person who functions and focuses entirely on self. A geocentric, gaiva-filled individual. That's a sin. What does it mean it's a sin? It means it's deficient. It's a lack. The word term chet comes also from a chesaron. It's the gematria of chesaron, means a lack. This person is deficient. The person is not functioning as well as he or she could. Guess what? When you're a bal gaiva, who is your worst enemy? You are. You're your own worst enemy. You disable your own ability. Why? Because you're not looking at things clearly. You're just carried away with yourself. And over-obsess over self. So this is the concept of the mitznefes. It comes to heal the deficiency in that particular area. And that's what Yom Kippur is about. It's about healing and cleansing till we reach the point of oneness with Hashem. And incidentally, gaiva, more than anything else, is what gets in the way of oneness with Hashem. As it says in the Gemara, Ein ani v'hu yochelim l'adar. God says about the Bal Gaiva, there's no room left for me, because it's all about you. And Yom Kippur is about having oneness with Hashem. So oneness means healing the Gaiva so that you make room for God in your life. Then comes the concept of the sash, the belt. What does it represent? Says the Rebbe, that's l'chaper al hirhure aveira shebelev. This comes to atone not for actual sins, but for lust and desire that resides in the heart. Shalachein, mokim ha'avnet, that's why the place of a gartel is b'samuch l'chaze halev. It's on the chest. Sometimes people wear a gartel, I don't know, on their buttocks. I don't know why they do that for. That's a meshagas. Like, that's not where a gartel is. If you want to wear a gartel, wear it right. The Rebbe always wear the gartel here. That's where it has to be worn. It's worn beneath the rib cage. It's underneath the chest. That's where a place of a gartel. And the gartel represents the idea of lekasher makifim im apnimim. Oftentimes, we have things which are, superficially we're in, atmospherically speaking, broadly speaking, we buy into certain things, but it's nothing to do with how I live my life. It's out there, People who believe in Judaism, they believe in Jewish survival, they believe in Jewish pride, they believe in all these big terms. So why don't you actually learn some Torah? Well, it doesn't bother me. It doesn't change my life, okay? Why don't you actually eat kosher? Well, Rabbi, I believe in Judaism. Who is Judaism surviving for? What is the purpose of Jewish survival? Well, we need to have a Jewish people. Yeah, why? What does that mean? So when it comes to translating it into practical, everyday reality, or bringing it down in a very personal way, in a way that impacts their own personal lives, somehow something gets lost in translation. In theory, they believe in it all. They're very passionate about it. In practice, somehow from what's out there, doesn't make it in here. So, if you have like a clothing that's not tight-fitting, like clothing that's large, in order to keep it close to your body so it doesn't blow all over the place, what do people use? A belt. Or a sash. And once upon a time, people wore these flowing robes. What do they have around the flowing robes? Then this big sash. So the belt, in other words, you have to belt it down. Belt down the makifim, that which is the outside, in the atmosphere, you have to bring it down. That means to take l'kasha, to connect makifim im apnimim. This is what the belt would do. It wasn't a little belt, by the way. This is a lot of cloth. They got wrapped around and around and around. They're talking about 32 amos. So you would connect umahadek the levushim, makifim, levushim. Clothes represent makifim. You don't eat your clothes. Some children feed their clothes, but we don't eat their clothes. And what happens to the clothes? It's only on the surface. It's superficial. It's what's called makif, and therefore clothes can be changed. You could wear one costume or another costume. You don't have to wear certain clothes. Clothes don't necessarily reflect who you are. It's something which is superficial. It's on the outside. It's a makif. But we want to take those clothes and want to make them part of our reality. So that's what the belt's about. That's the sash. This drawing forth of the atmospheric reality that surrounds us, but doesn't seem to permeate our inner essence, bina liba. This represents the idea of the understanding of the heart. Bina means to understand, to analyze, and bina is in the heart, bina liba. That's the expression that's found in Tikkun Ezer. Umehalev, and it's from the heart. It's through the heart. The heart becomes the segue through which all ideas are translated into everyday life. In other words, once I have ideas, once I have ideals, once I have concepts in my mind, what brings it down into my life? That it becomes something that's important to me, something that I care about, something that I'm ready to sacrifice for. The answer is when I develop an emotion. I feel a connection to it, to the point that I become passionate about it. It becomes meaningful to me. That's the heart. That's not the mind. The mind is objective. And the mind can look at something in one way, look at something in the other way. It doesn't affect them because it's not me. It's just ideas that are out there. So from the heart is through which the wisdom and the intelligence makes its way into the essence of a person's being. It's the gate of diffusion. The heart is, as the Zohar says, one of the three vital organs. The lechein liba polig lechol shaifen. What does the heart do? Which part of the body does the heart impact? All of the body. That's where the heart's right in the middle. Mahalev nimshach b'sharei varim. It's from the heart that it goes to everywhere else. And if the heart is strong enough, chas v'shalom, what happens is that the organs start to die off. God forbid. People lose fingers and toes and hands and eventually feet and arms because the heart's not pumping. The blood's not getting where it has to get. This little pump is a very important part of our existence. What is the belt then? Translated further, the belt means the